the subject of design and analysis of algorithms. Let's go and learn in detail what is algorithm, how to design an algorithm, how to analyze the algorithm. Let's see about this. We commonly know what is an algorithm. Algorithm is what? It's a step-by-step process to complete a specific task. What is a program? The same definition we will be seeing for program also. Program is also a step-by-step process. A step-by-step process to complete a specific task. Now, understand the difference in between algorithm and program. The difference is what? Every program will begin with algorithm. If you have fundamental concept of software engineering, before we implement something, we'll design it the same way. Before we write a syntactical structure for any problem, we will be designing the solution. So algorithm is what we will design. Now what is program? We will implement the same design in a syntactical structure using any programming language. Now this is what the major difference in between algorithm and program. Now the subject title you will be understanding about design and analysis of algorithm. What do you mean by that? We will be going to design the algorithm and we will be analyzing the algorithm. Now we will take a simple example. Algorithm swap A comma B, temp is equal to A is equal to B is equal to temp. Now, if you see the sample code, you will be understanding this one as a block of programming. Correct? It's a block of program to implement this particular task. The task is what? Swapping two numbers which are A comma B. Now, I am considering this as an algorithm. Okay? Now, how can I make this as algorithm which I took as a block of code which I am calling as a program. I am just taking out this blocks. Now, I am using the terms begin and end. Now, you can also see one more difference, that is, nowhere I talk about the data type of these parameters. I did not mention even the data type of parameter which is temporary. So it's not a program which I am going to run on a machine to specify to which data type these all belongs to. But I am writing this an algorithm to design before I am going to write a structure which I am calling as a program. So the point is what? Algorithm doesn't require to specify the data type of the variables. But what it requires, the task is required. What I am going to do, how I am going to complete it, it is required in the algorithm. And the first difference is what? Putting this begin and end instead of the block. The second is what? We will be making the equal to symbol, which is assignment operator, which I am putting as equal to in the program. Here in the algorithm, I am using colon equal to as assignment operator. This is what the second thing what has to be in the algorithm. And the third, I can write the algorithm even like this. And this is what the designing of an algorithm. I can use this operator, direction operator, that tells A value is going to be in temporary. Meaning is same. The meaning, the task, the operation will not get modified. It is the same, but I am telling you how many ways we can write an algorithm. Now, this is what designing about designing of an algorithm. Let's understand how to analyze the algorithm. There are parameters to analyze the algorithm. The one is talk about analysis of algorithm. How many ways I can analyze the algorithm? What are the constraints or what are the parameters? What are the measures to analyze an algorithm? That are time. When I wrote this time, don't misunderstand that I am talking about wall clock time. No, I am talking about the function. Now what this function performs is, when I am writing some sample code, for sure it takes some time to execute on machine. Whichever program I am writing or whichever algorithm I am writing on paper, algorithm usually will write on a paper, program will execute on a machine. Now, if I am writing some algorithm that takes some time to execute, so that time I am talking. So this time is what? It's a function. What it indicates? That the amount of time which is required to execute a particular task. That is what this time. And the second is what? The space. Now, what do you mean by the space? The amount of space which is required to store the algorithm. What function I am writing that takes some space to store, that takes some time to execute. This is what the amount of time. This is what the amount of time, and this is what the amount of space. So, and we cannot tell that these are the only two measures to analyze the algorithm. Even I can write one more, which is network. When I am designing an algorithm in cloud based, so I should know how much network bandwidth is consumed. If I keep on writing the analysis of algorithm, depending upon the domain, depending upon the programming structure, I will be adding some more. But as far as I am going to talk about design and analysis of algorithms related to the curriculum, these are all not required. These only two are required. Okay. Now, we'll see the example. One strategy to write some algorithm, or else we'll see about the how to calculate time and space complexity also. We'll see the first one. Later we'll see the next algorithm, how to write, using of what technique we can write the algorithm, how to solve a problem. So that we will see in the next video. But this video, let me cover about how to calculate a time complexity. The most important concept from algorithms. Okay. Now, time complexity, just now we discussed about the definition part. The amount of time which is required to complete a specific task. Now, I am taking some example. For I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Now, there are some statements what I wanted to execute. Now, let's see this code. For I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. I am not going to explain you about what is this logic. Okay. But I wanted to tell you how to calculate the time complexity for this. Now, look at this line. How many times it will execute? Though I wrote this has to be till n, it will be going for n plus 1 times. Correct? When n plus 1 condition will come, it will not enter into the loop. But loop will run for n plus 1 times. And this statement will run for n times. Now, what our target is? Our target is what? How many times the statements has executed. So the total complexity of this is what? What? The time which is required to execute these statements. That's what? Function f of n. This is what indicates time complexity. I told you time function. Now it takes what? N times. Okay? If it starts with 1, if it starts with n, 1, I minus 1 is block will get executed for n times. There is no difference in time complexity. It also requires n times. If I wrote this condition, which is I is equal to y plus 2, then what happens? This statement will run for n by 2 times. Now, when the statement is taking n by 2 times, what is the polynomial degree of n by 2? Again n. So, though it is n by 2, it will take n times. So, what is the time complexity? N itself. So, this is how the time complexity will be analyzed for this block of code. Space complexity is what? The amount of space to store these variables. So if I have single variable and this variable, so we will be taking it as two constant time or two constant space. So variables basically of dependent variables and independent variables. So I is what? Dependent variable. N is what? Independent variable. So two variables were there and we used to tell space complexity is 2n plus 1. Fine. So this is what the time and space complexity through which we will analyze the algorithm. Thank you all.